All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is December 29th. Happy Friday to everyone out there. We got a decent-sized NBA slate to dive into in today's video, like we always do. We're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about the game, anything else I like in the game, but all of my final plays, if you do want to fade me, those plays are going to be in the pinned comments, so make sure to keep an eye on that. In terms of last night, it was a good night, had a chance to be great. So we go 4-2 from a picks perspective, but if you'll notice, all of those Steph Curry picks all had different unit sizes. So our biggest plays of the night, Pacers money line, thankfully cashes, even without Tyrese Halliburton. Nuggets minus 6.5, that cashes with ease. And then our next two biggest plays were Steph over 4.5 assists, he ends with 5, and then Steph over 3.5 rebounds, those are half unit plays, he ends with 3, excuse me. No, he ends with 4. So he ended with 9 rebounds plus assists. If we just had him get one more rebound or one more assist, it could have been a way bigger night. But you know what? Those are just peanuts compared to the ones we hit, I guess, because the 2 losses were 0.25 unit plays. So nonetheless, a profitable night. It just could have been like a mega night yesterday. But nonetheless, like I said, good night overall. We'll celebrate, we'll applaud, we'll get some crowd noise pumped in here. But in terms of where the fun stops, our ride of the day, yeesh. Carello had Michael Porter Jr. over 1.5 assists. Now, I tweeted this out and I said, this is a little bit risky. It's not like Michael Porter Jr. is John Stockton out here, right? But it could cash early. Well, we had to wait the entire game just to see a Michael Porter Jr. 0 assist a game. Now, he only played 20-something minutes, so I'm wondering if something happened there. We didn't watch that game yesterday, so I guess I'm just wondering if something happened or if he just had a terrible game because he only had, I hope something happened because he had 8 points, 4 boards, 0 assists. Yikes, Michael Porter Jr. But nonetheless, the ride of the day does not come through, bringing the ride of the day win streak to the end of its streak. But if you guys do want to be the ride of the day, all you got to use is that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me an absolute banger of a pick in the comments. I'm jumping on board with one person's pick. Then you get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Let's get some wins in there. I'm also posting it over on my X account, guys, and I'm following everyone back. So if you want a Twitter follower or X follower and you want to see the ride of the day and engage the community, hit me up over there. Go follow me. But let's go ahead and jump into game number 1 here. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button, guys. We got Washington taking on Brooklyn. Now, we'll start with a spread here. Nothing about this screams Washington at me. Not that Brooklyn has really been all that great. They've been super inconsistent. Their only 2 wins in their last 8 games have come against Detroit, and they only covered in 1 of those games. So Brooklyn isn't necessarily playing, like world beaters right now, but they should get their guys back. They sat starters recently. Cam Johnson's on the injury report here. He's probable. I do think that they run their normal guys and look at a win here. They played Washington twice this season so far, covered in both of those games. Last time they played was the beginning of this month. About 3 weeks ago, they won 124-97. This Washington team's a dumpster fire. Can they cover big numbers? Sure, sometimes. Like, as bad as Washington is, they are 14-15-1 against the spread, so they're kind of just like a 50-50 ball club against the spread, but I just don't trust it. And in terms of a lean, you're not going to catch me, sitting here and looking at a leaning towards a Washington team. So by default, I'll look at the Nets. The total sitting at 242. I can't help but lean towards the over, right? Like, we've seen many overs cash with Washington this year, and Brooklyn's been scoring a decent amount of points. As bad as they've been win-loss-wise recently, they've been scoring a decent amount of points. They've cashed 4 overs in a row, and all of those were fairly high numbers. Like, they hit a 245 over against the Bucks 2 nights ago. So I'm going to lean towards the over, but I think my favorite spot here may be looking at Mikal Bridges. We'll pop over to Outlier, guys. Outlier, I have a link in the pinned comment. 7 days free. I love this tool. You guys see it on the live stream. We talk about it all the time. My favorite player prop tool out there. But I like his over in points tonight. One, because we do have some value here at minus 106. You can get that on FanDuel or Caesars. DraftKings and BetMGM not far behind with minus 110. But Mikal Bridges here had 27 earlier in the year against the Wizards. 21 last time they played at the beginning of the month. But that was on on, I guess, a night in which, he just didn't shoot that many times, right? 15 shot attempts, which seems like a lot, 9 makes, but you'd like to see him just pop it up there a little bit more, right? 21, 17, 17. Like, it's crazy to say 15's a lower amount, but he's averaging nearly 17 shot attempts per game here. So this is a guy that's due. Look at this. His line has not hit it in a while. So yes, that minus 106 may be sort of making me feel a little bit something about it, because I don't necessarily think it's a lock of the century, but for minus 106, I think Mikal Bridges could have a decent night, especially where Washington struggles big time against the small forward position. Next up, we have Orlando hosting the Knicks here. Orlando slight favorites at home, total sitting at 228. I've seen this move on Bet365 to 226.5, so I think we have a little bit of a volatile total as I record this early in the morning here. But in terms of a spread pick, I think New York bounces back after a big loss to OKC. These are two teams that, they kind of play, not the exact same, so don't get me wrong there, but fairly similar type of basketball when it comes to, I guess you could say, points in the paint as well as pace of play, which, if that's the case, I think the Knicks trump them in it. Like, I think the Knicks are better at that slow, grinded out basketball, both offensively and defensively, than Orlando is going to be. Orlando's also coming off of a tough loss there as well. Like, I don't want to act like they're riding high. They lost to Philly, which is understandable. But there's no Joel Embiid either, which makes it kind of even, I guess, less of a quality loss per se. But again, I think it's just a better New York team than Orlando. The only thing that can keep this from being a final play, if I'm being honest, is the fact that the Knicks are on the road and Orlando is at home. This Orlando ball club's been good at home this season, so I want to give them their flower and their credit where it's due, because, again, that is worth considering when looking at home-away splits. Like, I know baseball, it's huge for. Football, it's huge for. Basketball, some teams it matters for, some teams it doesn't, to be completely honest. But this Knicks team is 9-8-1 against the spread on the road, which isn't all that bad, but Orlando 10-4 against the spread when they are the home team. So I'm giving them their credit. That could be the reason we stay away from this and just keep it as a lean, but nonetheless, I do lean Knicks here plus the points, and maybe even on the money line. Now, the total is in an interesting spot, if you ask me. 228, if you can get that. 226 on plenty of books right now. As that moves down, it tells me that the books don't like this game to go over. They're afraid of it going under, because this wouldn't move in the matter of, X amount of hours from 228 to 226 if they weren't afraid of those under 228 tickets. I'm going to agree with where that direction is going. I'm going to look at the under 228 here, probably playable up to, or down to, I guess you could say, 226.5. But yeah, give me the under in this spot. Again, I kind of started this breakdown saying, like, these are two grinded out tight teams. I think this game should flow in that pattern. So give me the Knicks money line / plus the 1.5, as well as the under here. In terms of player props, really nothing jumped out at me in this game, if I'm being completely honest. Mostly because you have two decently good defensive teams, but I'm not looking to take any unders on some of these stars, because obviously we know it can happen when you do that. So I'm probably sticking away from this game player prop perspective, at least for now. All right, Atlanta taking on the Kings here. This spread is essentially a pick'em here. Atlanta on some books -1, but for the most part, this is literally just a pick'em. Total up there at 250.5, rightfully so. You have two teams that can obviously put up a lot of points, but not as of late. Like, starting with the total here, the Kings have cashed the under here in plenty of games, and same thing with Atlanta. So maybe that 250 mark's a little bit too high. If you want to get a little bit safe, I've seen a couple totals here on the alternate side of things that I really don't mind. So you're paying a little bit of juice, but under 256.5, the Kings and the Hawks have both cashed in 8 of their last 10. So for what it's worth, could be a little look for an alternate total, because I think there's a lot of points in this game, but you do run the risk that, all you're asking for is 125 a piece here, and you're looking at an over 250. So yeah, that's kind of where my head comes out on this. Maybe an alternate total, because I don't like taking the over in this spot just because it's asking for a lot of points. So I'm probably doing something along the lines of under or nothing. Could definitely be nothing though, so just keep that in mind. But from a spread perspective, it's interesting to me why the Kings are actually 1-point dogs on most books / why this is even a pick'em. This Kings team is better than the Hawks. And now the Kings may not be the best team in terms of what we're looking at on the road, but the Atlanta Hawks, listen up, the Atlanta Hawks are the worst home team against the spread this entire year. They are 1-11. They've won or covered 8% of their games at home. Are we hearing what I'm saying? 1-11 against the spread? So I like the Kings in this spot. The Kings, like I said, aren't the best away team. I can admit that, but they're sure as hell not the Hawks at home. Again, 1-11. The Kings are just 7-6 against the spread on the road. Fine, okay, they're covering 54% of their time on the road, but the Hawks covering 8% at home. That's crazy. Now, their win-loss at home, this is essentially, again, a pick 'em, is 4-8. So it's like they're not very good win-loss either. So give me the Kings in this spot. In terms of injuries, nothing major to note on the Sacramento side of things. Hunter's still out for Atlanta. They may be getting, if I'm not mistaken, Jalen Johnson, or did come back, if I'm not mistaken, right? So there's, I guess, a plus for them, but I don't think that that's a game changer. I think he played last game, but limited minutes. But there's a game. It's not a game changer for them, right? Like, give me the Kings here. And like I said, I talked about the total. Only player prop that really jumped out to me using Outlier here would be DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray over in points. I don't like the line. Alternate 19.5 is too much juice to be paying, but look at how much a difference that is. 20.5 is his normal line. If you do want to suck up the juice here, minus 140, look at all the green that pops up once you do that. So this dude has been right on that 20 mark 3 times out of his last 10, but his line's 20.5, so he doesn't get credit for those wins, obviously, right? So this goes from a 50-50 hitting to 19.5 hitting 80% of the time in his last 10. You could see shooting guards against the Kings here, they're allowing the 4th most points to opposing shooting guards. I don't mind this. I also don't mind taking that spread because look, there's value here. FanDuel minus 140, DraftKings minus 170. Like, there's 30 cents of value over on FanDuel. So I don't hate that at all, but again, DeJounte Murray a little inconsistent for me, but he's shooting the ball plenty. It's a matter if he's going to make his shots or not. So we may be buying that down to, if it becomes a final play, buying it down to 19.5, because as crazy as that is, it's mattered. Like, he's hit 19.5, over 19.5 in 60% of games this year, right? You bump it to 20.5, 43. Like, this dude lands on 20 points more than anyone in the league, it seems. So we may be rolling with that, but keep an eye on the pinned comment. All right, next up, we have the Cavs taking on Milwaukee. Now, Giannis is on the injury report here. He's listed as probable, but still on the injury report. Donovan Mitchell also on the injury report. He's questionable. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, we got to know some of these outcomes of injuries before we make a true lean or play on this game. If everyone's healthy, I think I like the Bucks. Like, this Bucks team is looking good. They've won 8 of their last 10. Christmas Day loss, whatever, that sucks, but then they bounce back and beat Brooklyn, who obviously sat a bunch of guys, by 22. Cleveland also looking good, but just not as good, in my opinion, I guess you could say. Like, the Dallas Mavericks handed them that win 2 nights ago, right? So I'll take the Bucks here minus the points. It's going to depend on Giannis. I will say, if Giannis does not play, a player prop I really like. If Giannis doesn't play, so this is really the only player prop true edge I think I found in this game. If Giannis does not play, I love Malik Beasley over 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The only time Giannis hasn't played where he played this season, right? He had 30 points and 4 rebounds there for 34 PRA. No assists, but again, that number is super low at 13.5. You might as well get any stat you can get. So yeah, that's where I'm looking. Again, that's only if we see Giannis kind of sit this one out, because as of right now, if he plays, like, I don't think any of the tertiary or role player guys are worth considering, and we don't have many lines out because I think the books are waiting for Donovan Mitchell. I think they're waiting for Giannis to be ruled in or out. So I'll lean towards that Malik Beasley spot if Giannis doesn't play. In terms of total, 239, it's up there for sure. I guess I'll lean slightly towards the over, because that's what we've been doing with Bucks games, right? And I've been transparent about that. I'm like, if the Bucks are going to score 130 to 140 themselves, which seems like what they're doing lately, you can't look at a number that's in the 230s or 240s and say, I'm going to lean towards the under. It doesn't mean that we're so confident in the over. It just means like the under's kind of like not worth considering in a sense, and the over could be something that we dig further into. Whether or not we roll with it or not, TBD. But yeah, give me the over 239 here, I guess. All right, I popped it up a couple times on the screen, but now let me properly tell you about Outlier, guys. You can get 7 days free with the link in the pinned comment. Let's jump right in. Outlier is an amazing tool here. probably, you know, like I keep telling you guys, my favorite player prop research tool, but probably just my favorite tool overall as of late. You know, realistically, when it comes down to it, Outlier, OddsJam, Daily Grind Fantasy, these are all tools that we can put in our repertoire and help us beat the books. OddsJam is right in that big three. I'm on the player prop screen right now. You can sort by last 5, last 10. These are all hit rates, right? So if we go last 20 here, look around, Damian Lillard over 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's hit this in 75% of games. We can click in, look at his game logs here, look at his season, last 20, last 10, last 5. We can even go over and see how Cleveland's playing against point guards this year. You can look at all the alternate lines and the lines available, some supporting stats. It is really cool. Some team stats as well, flipping offense and defense. What I really like about Outlier is they do have this trend screen as well. So if you don't want to do the heavy digging yourself, you can go to this trend screen and just pop this up and look at trending plays in the market right now. For example, not that you always want to bet against this guy, but Nikola Jokic just failed to exceed 50 points plus rebounds and assists in 8 of his last 10 games against the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's averaged 44.6 in those games. Look at this, plus 100 over on DraftKings for that. You can even go in and kind of dig into it a little more as well. So guys, totally worth the 7-day free trial. I think the only issue is if you go and try out Outlier and you're like, haha, I'm going to get 7 days of a great tool, you're going to fall in love with it and you're going to end up paying for it afterwards, which isn't a bad problem to have. It's only $19.99 per month, which I say that because that's a very reasonable price for the tools that are out there right now. So go ahead and check out Outlier. Even if you think you're doing it just for that free day, free week, go ahead and check it out, but you might fall in love with it. I've never heard a single negative comment from Outlier when I've pushed it in live streams and in videos. Obviously, like, truly is a goated tool. But find that link in the pinned comment, guys, and let's go ahead and get back to the slate. All right, Celtics taking on the Raptors. Boy, oh boy, did the Celtics make the Pistons season a little interesting last night. They do ultimately prevail with an overtime win, but told you I was nervous about that game. Pistons came closer to winning that game than they have a game in so long. But now the Celtics are here taking on the Raptors. They are at home. 9-point spread. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both listed on the injury report. The weird thing is I've seen Jason Tatum pop on and off the injury report a couple times now, so I'm like, is he playing? Is he not? Jaylen Brown missed last night. But again, this is a back-to-back. So if these guys don't play, then I don't think that I consider this game. If they do play, I don't mind the Celtics here. Maybe we buy a couple points because I'm not going to lie, 7.5 looks a hell of a lot better than 9. But this is a Celtics team that, you know, last night was the outlier. You could say that they're a little tired after a back-to-back. Fine. I'd hear you out. But you're looking at a Toronto team that's only won 3 of their last 10 games. And on the road this year, they're just 4-9, whereas the Celtics are yet to lose a game at home. So I'll lean towards the Celtics, but again, I don't know. There's a couple factors here that probably keep this as a lean. Back-to-back, and obviously their two of their best players are potentially sitting this one out. So we'll keep an eye on the injury report and keep an eye on the pinned comment. But in terms of a total here, a spot that I don't mind is taking a peek at the over. Yes, Toronto plays fairly slow. But, you know, they've shown that they could score a decent amount of points here. And if you just read off the Celtics' last few games here, last 5, 126, 144, 145, 126, 128. And these are against good or bad teams, bad, good defenses, all that. It's just like kind of right now, that's where the Celtics are consistently scoring their points. The caveat is, and I'm sure the argument that could be made is, well, they already played Toronto twice and only scored 117 and then 108. Fine. But I think this one ends up going over 224. I've already seen that line move to 225.5 on some books. So just like when we lean towards that Magic spot, like, books are afraid of people taking this 224 ticket and going over with it. Houston taking on the Sixers right now. This game's also essentially a pick 'em, but Houston getting a point or a couple at home, depending on which sports book you are on. The total's way down there, 221. I like the over in this game immediately. Yes, Houston is a good defense, especially at home, but 221's a little bit too low. We saw a total that was similar to that against Phoenix, right? Houston ends up losing that game 129 to 113. Now, in terms of who's going to win this game, no Joel Embiid for the Sixers, so it's kind of like, what are they without him? Yes, they caught the win, a big win, I guess, against, I think they won that game by what, like 20, right? Against Orlando the other night. But is that the anomaly? Is that the outlier? Because they had lost 4 games without Embiid prior to that. So I'm a little conflicted when it comes to the spread here because I kind of like the Sixers in the matchup here against Orlando, but saying that I feel kind of crazy. But I do think like Maxey Melton, Oubre Harris, and then even Paul Reed can like compete with this younger Houston team I'll lean towards the Sixers, but again, it's kind of crazy to do that without Embiid. I think my favorite play here is going to be the over. In terms of player props in this game, I also had a very difficult time, and again, that's just me peeling back the curtain, being completely honest, guys. I had a difficult time really finding anything that absolutely jumped out at me. But, you know, there's only one ball, so I guess you could pick maybe Melton or Harris. I feel like one of them ends up not going off, one does go off, that type of thing. But we're splitting hairs at that point, so I probably don't roll with anything player prop-wise in this game. But, yeah, I like the over as well as the ever so slightest of leans towards the Sixers. Next up, Denver taking on OKC. Denver giving up 3.5 points here at home. They are on the back-to-back. We cashed for them last night. The total sitting at 232. I like the rumble and cover and Thunder in this spot. I do. Plus 3.5 seems like a little bit too much to give one the best against the spread team on the season here. And two, Denver on a back-to-back. This is a Denver team that they have struggled on back-to-backs, a negative against the spread record. And one thing with a rest disadvantage here, they're just 1-3 against the spread this year with a rest advantage. Now, this is where it gets dicey. And yes, I'm making my argument, but I will admit that there's some asterisks here. It's like, I'm going to say with a rest advantage, the Thunder are 5-1 against the spread this year. But the Thunder are so good against the spread that you can kind of cut this up however you want. As away underdog or, you know, on the road, like the Thunder are going to have good against the spread numbers no matter what. So there's a caveat, but it's still facts are facts, right? This is a team in OKC that's 5-1 with a rest advantage and as away underdogs, right? This Thunder team 5-1 as well. So I like the spot for them. I do think that, you know, Denver missed Aaron Gordon. He's questionable here, but like they just said, there's no timetable for his return a couple days ago. So maybe he gets the run. Either way, that's not going to impact my play all that much. I do think that this could be a good Thunder spot. Thunder edged this one out just a couple weeks back by 1 point here. Denver took them to the woodshed earlier in that year. So I think these are two fairly matched teams. So if you're going to give me 3.5 points here, I'm going to roll with the Thunder, who are playing good basketball. They're 7-3 in their last 10, 6-4. And again, they're on the road here, which that's a team that can compete with Denver at home. Now, does Denver win this game? They could win this game. I get it. They could easily win this game, you know, say 120 to 118 or something like that, right? And which I do think could be a potential score here. But 120 to 118, it's like, yeah, well, the Thunder covered at 3.5 points. So that's where my mind is at. I think it's going to be a very good game. But yeah, keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we roll with it, because I will say, it's scary betting against Denver, right? But again, they are on a back-to-back. This could be a spot in which it's like, okay, we didn't play our best basketball, but we'll see. They have, I think, the last two back-to-backs they won and covered in. So, no, they didn't cover against Charlotte, right? So there you go, 1-1 in their last two back-to-backs. We'll see. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. Now the total, 232 as of right now. I just pegged this game at what, 120 to 118. So I guess I'm thinking that this game gets, you know, just barely over that spot. You know, that's a 238 finish in my opinion. So yeah, I'll look at that there in terms of a total. I guess it's slightly towards the over. All right, Phoenix taking on the Hornets here. This one, I don't really want to overthink it. Charlotte on a back-to-back. They played against the Lakers last night. They had a decent lead, yet they still lost, and they were 13-point dogs. They didn't even cover, losing 133 to 112. So I think the fact that this is at a 15.5-point spread, Phoenix coming off of a good win against the Rockets, I'll lean towards Phoenix, but I don't trust them for a 15.5-point spread. So I'm not going to be making this a final play. I'll jump right out and say that. But I could consider, you know, the over 231 here, because I think Phoenix's offense is clicking a little bit. We know Charlotte's not going to play that much defense. So, you know, if Phoenix can go out there and score 120-ish or even have a game like they had against Houston, right? 129, then Charlotte, I think, should be able to do at least something like what they did last night, 110-ish, 112. So I'll lean towards the over. But, yeah, that's really the only thing I'm looking at in this game. Blowout potential, too, so it's tough to look at any true player props in this spot as well. I guess I don't hate taking a peek at potentially some Terry Rozier player props just because of how used he is and how used he's been as of late, obviously. And this is a Phoenix team that doesn't really cover the point guard as well as you would think. In their last 7 here, in terms of points, they're allowing the 5th most points to the opposing point guard here. They're allowing the 7th most assists, and then in terms of rebounds, they're allowing the 10th most rebounds to opposing point guard. So maybe this is a Terry Rozier PRA type of night. He's hit in 53% of games this year, but only once in his last 5, but maybe this is a get-right spot. We shall see. Again, I don't mind looking at him in terms of player props, but this game's a little fishy, like blow-up potential, yada, yada, yada. We shall see. All right, we got a garbage game. If you guys have a strong pick on this game, I need to see some trash can emojis in the comments, because we leaned towards Portland last night, and they are a better team. They didn't beat San Antonio here. In terms of injuries, Simons missed last game. He's questionable here tonight. No major injuries outside. Actually, DeAndre Ayton and Sharp are also questionable, so there's a little bit of an upgrade for them. If those guys are healthy, I lean towards Portland, but come on, are we really betting this game? Like, are we really looking at this game saying that out of all these games, what is it, 10 games on today's slate, out of all these games, we got to target that Portland and Spurs game? I mean, if that's what you're doing, that's just you. But yeah, I don't think that this game makes its way into the final plays. I'll lean towards Portland -5.5 because I do think they're the better team, even though they lost by, what was it, like 12 or something last night. But in terms of a total, 228. The last night's game was a 233 total, and it went way under. I think that this night is going to be the lack thereof of defense night, because now it's a back-to-back, same matchup. So give me the over in this spot, 228. Again, I don't want this to be a final play. I don't want to consider it for a final play. If we get a little crazy, maybe it makes its way in there somehow, like sneaks in there. But yeah, I don't think anything's making its way into a final play for today. And no player props that I've seen are out at the time of recording, which again, we record pretty damn early, but no player props out for this game yet either. So nothing to really look at there. All right, Clippers taking on Memphis. Ja Morant questionable. He didn't end up playing last night, right? He's questionable in this game. I think it's going to be a huge deal whether or not he plays in terms of what we're leaning here, because spoiler alert, I kind of like Memphis plus the points. They are on a back-to-back, but they have covered that in terms of, I think it's, let me pull it up again. I just lost it. 3-1 on back-to-backs this season against the spread. So it's like, okay, well, maybe you're doing the damn thing. Kawhi also questionable here for LA. So we don't have any player props available, even the line's out right now for these guys, or for this game. But yeah, I like Memphis plus the point, just because I don't necessarily see Los Angeles winning this one by 7+. You know, they've dropped 3 straight games against the spread. They even beat Charlotte, you know, stompingly a couple nights back, but didn't cover their 11-point spread. I like the Clippers, or I'm starting to like the Clippers, because James Harden, it sounds so crazy because I've hated that guy for a while. He's starting to kind of earn my trust back in terms of how well he's been playing. But at the same time, you gotta be able to do that when your team's losing too. It's really easy to ride high when you're doing well, right? So little mistrust, I guess I should say, in the Clippers right now. I like them as a team. They have the talent for sure, but a little mistrust, and you know, 7.5 points on some sportsbooks here seems like it just may be a little bit too much to give Memphis. So we'll see if that makes its way into the final plays, but it's definitely the direction of our lean right now. In terms of a total, I've made an argument in my head for both sides of this. If this is a Clippers traditional, like, let's go ahead and win this game, like, let's put our foot down, this game's going under. But if Memphis makes a game of this, if Memphis comes in there and says, all right, we're going to play fast, we're going to play quick, like, this game goes over. Like we saw, was against New Orleans twice, against, and I'm blanking on Atlanta, right? Those games, Memphis was like, all right, pedal to the metal, let's do this, let's fly. Same thing with Indiana. They even upped the tempo. Like, Indiana didn't follow suit, but when Memphis wants to go out there and get these wins, like, as a team that you picture to some degree as like a slower team, right? When Ja Morant's out there and flying and buzzing, like, they can drop 120 on your head, and that's more than enough to go ahead and look at the over here. So I think that's where I ultimately lean towards the over, right? Because I like Memphis to keep this game close, so I have to picture that game script versus if this is going to be a Clippers game where they win by 10+, like, I think this is a slow down type of game, but I don't think it's going to be like that. So give me the over in this spot as well. Again, no real player props to monitor in this game. But guys, that's going to wrap for today's video. Go ahead and drop 28 in the comments. Let me know who you think's winning the NBA championship, because there's some parity in this damn league now, guys. There really is. Like, at the beginning of the year, everyone's like, Nuggets. I'm a biased Celtics fan, so I think it's the Celtics. I think the way that they dominate some good teams, they look like unbeatable. But who do you think's winning the championship? Let me know in the comments, and also drop number 28 so I know you made it this far into the video. But yeah, guys, signing off here. Good video. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I think our NFL video will be out later tonight because we have some Saturday game. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.